Let's talk about Tim Pool doing a 31-minute video, almost 32-minute video about yours truly, where he calls me very mean names, says I'm a grifter, says I'm dumb as rocks and a liar. And I want to do a deep dive. I saw this is from a few weeks ago. Now we have time to really sit with it and spend some time on the show watching a bunch from what was supposed to be a takedown of me. The title is Luke Beasley Roasted for being completely wrong. And it's him reacting to clips from my Jubilee appearance. Now, before showing you the first clip from the actual YouTube video, there seemed to be a common theme in Tim Pool's video about me. I think you'll see it come through here.
It's a great opportunity for these prominent personalities who typically won't come on the show to debate. He came on the show, said, I'll debate. He refuses to come back. Come back and debate in the culture war. Dude, this is why Luke won't come back on the show. This dude is a sophist grifter. Luke, come on. Come back on the culture war. Let's play. This is why Luke Beasley doesn't want to come on the show. This is why Luke Beasley won't come on the show.
I think he wants to be back on the show. Now, because it's such a fun response, let me hold my response to those clips because he's going to bring that up in the video I'm about to play and I'll address it. But he made that point very clear, very loud and clear, Tim. You want me back on the show. So here is part one, just his intro of the segment. And again, I encourage you to watch a lot of this because there's so many good parts where, as I explained to our members on the bonus show as to why I get so excited for things like this, is Tim Pool is a really prominent, one of the most well-known conservative MAGA influencers. And so I think it is a good chance to demonstrate to all of you that here's the best he has. Here's the best takedown of me, trying to prove I'm dishonest, that he can bring forward. And I hope that throughout this video, you leave going, wow, if that's the best Tim has, then I think I can trust that Luke is correctly delivering the information in the videos, because otherwise Tim would have something to beat me over the head with. And you can be the judge if he as to if he does that effectively. Let's start.
Hey, we got Luke Beasley versus 20 Trump supporters, and he makes a lot of claims. See, here's the reason why I like reacting and commenting on these videos, is because they often edit them in such a way that people like Luke Beasley are going to get a free pass on bad.
So the context again, Tim Pool has a few channels doing political commentary and debates and stuff, and has a pretty big following. And then I went on Jubilee, which is this big platform for debates. I've covered that. I'm sure you've seen it. And I debated 20 Trump supporters, or 20 MAGA boomers as it was described. And that's what he's reacting to. But a lot of it is just him generally venting about his frustration with me. Which again, I've said it before, I feel like the way that I do content is not even close to inflammatory. I don't feel like I do very inflammatory content, but he's inflamed.
Arguments, and because I love debating and presenting my ideas, sometimes I'm wrong. It's a great opportunity for these prominent personalities who typically won't come on the show to debate that I can at least rebut some of their claims. But I want to just stress, every single time I provide commentary on these videos, which is fair use to the utmost degree, Jubilee files a copyright claim. Guys, it's abuse at this point, and if you keep doing it, well, let's just say don't keep doing it. I am allowed to...
That was a good threat. That was a banger threat. If you keep doing it, you better stop, is what I'm going to say. Don't make me say it. Now... Before playing a little bit more, what he's talking about, this is so funny because he's later going to accuse me of doing stuff just for money, which if you followed this show for a long time, you know how ludicrous that claim is, and I'll get into it in more detail in a second. But just on the Jubilee part, he's so obsessed with money that he's portraying Jubilee demonetizing his videos whenever he plays clips from their show as abuse. And when you hear it, it sounds like his videos are getting taken down by Jubilee, which would be ridiculous. Let me play some clips. You can demonetize it, or you could choose to have the ad revenue from the video be funneled to you, but why would you take it down? But that's not what they're doing. I looked up Tim Pool Jubilee, and there's a bunch of videos he has posted. They haven't been taken down, but probably what has happened is Jubilee copyright claimed it, and that means that Tim Pool's channel doesn't get the revenue just from that video, which is the same thing other than when I covered the video of me. Every other Jubilee video I've covered also copyrights us. And we don't monetize it. But I still cover it because I think it's interesting to y'all. And I don't care. I don't care if we don't make money on a video. But he's so upset making threats against Jubilee because when he covers this one platform's content, he can't make money on that video. But I'm obsessed with the money. Interesting.
Counter the lies and the incorrect statements from these individuals. When you publish this to millions of people, let me see if I can, how many views does this video have? 1.4 million views. And this dude is going to make many statements that are incorrect. I am not going to play an hour and 40-minute long video. I'm going to pull specific points to counter his statements. This is what Jubilee does, and I don't care if it's conservative or liberal. The people that are typically chosen to debate, they're not high-profile, prominent individuals who have built up careers challenging these ideas and calling out lies. No disrespect to those who show up to the Jubilee events to debate, but they're putting, even if it's Ben Shapiro or Luke Beasley, they're putting trained professionals up against the general public. Now, here's the thing. When it comes to like Ben Shapiro and he does these things, I largely agree a lot with what he was saying. But I have debated some of the regular people as well when it's edited in such a way. Here's what I don't like about Jubilee and why I want to stress they've not invited me, or if they have, I don't know, but I would not do it because they're edited. I don't do that.
This is the best day ever. This is going to be so fun. So he says I make multiple incorrect statements. I'm going to show you, obviously his video is 30 minutes. It would take us 2 hours to go over a 30-minute video because I would also have to make shorts correctly utilizing fair use, and I'm adding commentary, not just playing his whole thing. So I can't play all of it, but I'll play a bunch of it. I think his points will come through, and all the points where he thinks he's debunking something I'm saying, I'm going to play, and then I'll respond to them. Spoiler alert, he doesn't debunk anything that I say from my standpoint, but you'll get to judge for yourself. But it's funny he starts with a long rant about Jubilee. He's going to get to me, don't worry.
Don't play that game. Let me start with the quick intro so you can get a general idea of what Jubilee is presenting to you guys. It's not letting me do it. Here we go.
Oh, wait, I didn't address him going, they didn't invite me, but if they did, I wouldn't even go. Yeah, you would. You so would. This is why I don't do Jubilee. And also because they didn't invite me. Which is funny to be like, I won't do anything that's edited. So many things are edited. So many interviews and debates are edited because you're not just, if you're doing a debate in front of cameras, to his credit, his are long live streams, 3 hours, and there's no edits. Great. But something like Jubilee that gets way more views per video than Tim does, and a part of it is because they're not just doing a debate, but they're also doing a performance. They're trying to make it interesting and engaging to watch. So they're going to have to edit in such a way that it moves fast and boring parts get thrown out, etc. I was there. I can't speak to every other Jubilee video, but I was there for mine, obviously. And I can say they didn't dishonestly present any of the participants or me. It wasn't like the edits changed the meaning of it. Would just be this part got kind of boring and slow, let's take that out, or this was redundant, let's see. From what I remember of being there versus what I watched back, it was a really fair representation of what had actually happened on both my part and the participants' part. And I don't even think I heard any of the participants when they did interviews afterwards with people saying they had any problem with the edits. So that I don't think is relevant to the quality of the debate. And yes, just so you know, something like Jubilee, part of it's to see if you can convince the audience, not the people you're in front of, they're not going to change their mind, but the audience who's watching, or have the audience watch you further substantiate your points, which can be valuable, and see them confronted. But a lot of it is just because it's interesting, and that's fine. We could do things because it's interesting and it's fun to watch.
Multiple times to not get drafted.
I focus on, let's get the population healthy. We got a bunch of sick
Well, we're
people.
not going to do it by taking away their health care. He had a lawful asylum claim. He had gone to the border checkpoint.
When you're trying to deport 20 million people, sometimes a few things happen.
Hi, I'm Luke Beasley. I'm a liberal Gen Z political commentator, and today I'm surrounded by 20 boomer Trump supporters.
I am going to start by directly impugning the honor of this Luke Beasley. Something that I typically try to avoid doing to a certain degree. But Luke, I will say this to you. I hope you hear it. Maybe you won't. You probably won't, but whatever. Luke is a grifter. And I use that term intentionally because it's offensive to everybody. Everyone's always trying to argue that those of us in this space don't actually believe what we really believe, and it's the stupidest thing imaginable. Now, I don't believe that Luke actually believes a lot of what he says, and the reason why is...
Okay, so I'm going to go back a little bit. You're going to hear all this. We're not moving forward. Just really hold on, because this is the big part. Later, he goes in different parts of my different claims and throws out different insults, but this is his big personal attack, which is that I'm a grifter. And it's funny he admits the reason I'm using that term is because it's the most offensive. Because it is. It's one thing for someone to disagree with you or try to disprove you. It's another for them to accuse you of not even believing what you say you believe. Because political discourse is going to be very terrible if people are running around saying things they don't actually believe. So grifter is the label, which would mean like I'm saying things for money or for views, not actually what I believe. Now, I think for most of you who are watching, maybe a large percentage of you have watched for a long time, already you're going to roll your eyes because I'm just so very transparent and vulnerable in many cases about who I am and what I believe. And I've been pretty darn consistent in what I believe. And you've watched that, and you've watched places where my views have developed. So I don't think many of you need that to be disproven, but I still think it'll be interesting. And not now. We're doing something serious, Kevin. His argument is as follows. Grifter, what's the substantiation? Let's listen.
I don't believe that Luke actually believes a lot of what he says. And the reason why is we had Luke on the Culture War show. We debated. A lot of people really loved when I yelled at him about Enrique Tarrio, though I was like 30% wrong. I was like 70% right, but I got a bit wrong. I had no problem saying that. And the clip went viral because it was righteous indignation. Me yelling at a liberal, blah, that's typically how it goes. However, Luke he also knows several conservatives. He does a show, or he did a show with conservative. And when I talk to these people, and even him, it's not like he's admitted and said, I lie for money. But the general sentiment was, he knows that if he corrects the record when he's wrong and it goes against what Democrats want, he will hurt financially from it. Thus, he came on the show, said, I'll debate. He refuses to come back. Because when this is what all these liberals, they know, if they're wrong and they look bad, and it's bad for the left and Democrats, they lose money. That's why when we reached out to David Pakman, with all due respect, nobody owes me the favor. The first thing he said was, I'll do the show for $5,000. The second thing he said was, and I'm not, I try to be fair, was that he's busy, he's got family, he'll try to make time and see if he can make it work, and he never did. The first time we reached out, I was like, here's my chart, here's my fee. Don Lemon, $50,000. Kyle Kulinski said, I'll try to make it some point, never did. Hassan Piker first said, yes, I'll do it, then backed off and said, no, I won't. Sam Cedar came on, put on a fake show, admitted he was farming clips, and then smirked and left. Because that's what these people do. Let me tell you the Sam Cedar one, right?
Okay, then it goes on to Sam Cedar. I'm not Sam Cedar, so I don't think that's super relevant. So the key part is part one, he's a grifter. Part two, here's why he won't come back on the show. Now, I'll address the stuff in between that he said, too. But this is why I wanted to wait to address this. According to Tim, because, which I don't even follow this, but imagine I went on and didn't want to go on again. How that proves I'm a grifter, I don't know. But the funny part is, look at this. Look at this. 1, 2, 3. Podcast listeners, we're showing photos of every time I've been on Tim Pool's show. There is no other show other than like my friend Josiah's and my friend David Pakman's and Piers Morgan's show that I've done as many times as Tim Pool's. It's not only that I didn't refuse to go back on, I went back on and then I went back on again. I was on 3 times total. I don't know how many guests he has that are liberals who go on 3 times. That's wild. Now let me explain why the other people he listed might have not wanted to go on. Actually, before that, he did something really tricky there too, where he goes, Luke just cares about money. which is news to me because of how many choices we make on this show that leave a bunch of money unmade because I just think it makes the content better. For example, every day we get advertising requests. Will you sponsor this company, read out their promo, and then we'll pay you a bunch of money? And you might notice when you watch this show, you never hear me go, and now we're taking a break to talk about blah, 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 which is perfectly fair for people to do. I just personally don't want to. And that means thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars that we choose not to make just because I think it makes the show better. So that you know when I say I really believe in something, like my own energy drink or something, then you believe me and it's not just, oh, anytime someone pays me, I say I love a product. So that means we've not given away, but choose not to receive so much money because I care more about the quality of the content. And it's not that other people who do accept advertisements don't care. You got to fund your business and it's great to make money, whatever. But that's just a personal choice we've made, along with a bunch of others that were content over money, truth over money. And I've documented those cases, especially to the members, over and over again. And so it's just, I'm the exact wrong person to accuse that of. And then the tricky thing he does is Luke's a grifter. Now, here are these other examples of people who allegedly demanded money to go on his show. You'll notice he didn't say me, but it kind of sounds like I was a part of that group. Now, I have no idea if he's telling the truth about those people. If Don Lemon, if 50,000 is that's a lot of money. And like, hey, Don, get it. Give me a
joke.
See if you can get Tim to pay you that. But that's hilarious. And then the David case, let me tell you, number one, it's so dishonest. I give you full permission to show all the texts that I've had with your booker. Did I ever say anything about paying me? No. 3 times. I had to give up, talk about money, any of the money we would have made on my show to skip my show to do his show. So, wow. The dishonest maneuver to go, this guy is just like everyone else who only cares about money. Now, here's some cases of people who demanded money to be on the show, not specifying that I never did. 3 times, never did. Show the texts. And then number 2, to act like it's somehow inherently dishonest to not want to go on your show again. I'd go on your show again eventually. I just don't want to right now because I went on 3 times and it's a lot of effort. And that gets to point 3. I don't blame someone like David if it's true for requesting money. Here's why. To do his show, you have to fly to DC. I happened to, when I did these appearances, lived in DC, so that made it easier. But you had to fly to DC. They'll pay for it, but that's a lot of time. And then drive out to West Virginia. West Virginia, to where he films his show. Why he chooses to do it in West Virginia instead of a place where people live, I don't know. But that's what he does. And so I think we calculated on the bonus show, it took probably 7 hours round trip, 7 to 8 hours. We missed our show. That hurts in a lot of ways. Also that a liberal could go on his show and get him better viewership and him the money. So to go, hey, for me to have to give up, in the case of the other liberals he named, my show for a day, maybe 2 days, depending on how exhausting the experience is, to travel to DC, then drive. Now we're talking about a multi-day travel experience to do a 3-hour live stream. I don't mind this, but I'm sure a lot of people are thinking for you to just try to pummel me the whole time. In my case, put this back up, Jaden. It was, I think, 4v1 in the top example, 3v1, and then 3v2, going from top to bottom in terms of 4 MAGAs versus me, then 3 MAGAs versus me, something like that, and then 3 versus 2. And I had fun with it, but that's not something everyone wants to do. Have 4 people surrounding you and they're all trying to attack you and get their clip of them attacking a liberal. But I did 3 times. And so that's a lot of effort. It's actually not crazy if people do request money, and I don't. And I didn't. And you know that, but you made it sound like I did. That's very tricky. And if you're saying who's caring more about money, you're the one screaming at me in this video to come back on the show. Why? Because it'll get you more viewership, and you've talked about how your show kind of financially struggling right now because you have to get a lot of security, etc. And you did lose out on the organization that funneled you Russian money. Whoops. And so you want better viewership. I get it. Tons of people want better viewership. We love when we have high viewership. And for you, that's bringing on a liberal so that you can get those viral exchanges. Fine. But no one owes you that. And they definitely don't owe you it 4 times or 5 times. When are you satisfied? 6 times? Should I just be a permanent co-host on your show, unpaid? So that's already this. I know this is going to take so long, but this early into the video, you already have something so dishonest, which is calling me a grifter because I won't go back on despite being on 3 times and not requesting to be paid all 3 times. And then to even throw in the other people, obviously 50K would be ridiculous. Maybe 5K is high, but like asking for some money wouldn't be crazy for other people who have big and popular shows, and it would mean a lot. It would be a real dent to take off a day or two to travel out there unpaid, a whole day or 2 of travel and effort so that you could do a 3-hour live stream so that you can get views of you dishonestly attacking liberals, or in some cases, honestly, maybe. And then you get mad at people for not wanting to do that. And I'll just be honest, I like to go on shows of all different sizes, of all different viewership. It's great, and I've done it, as I just told you, with a lot of different things. You listed some really well-known people there. Your show's not exactly pulling in the hottest views it ever has. So for some people, it's going to be like, I'd be doing a lot for this guy who's going to do everything to dishonestly represent me. And if I just did my normal show that day, I would get more of an audience. Like, I get why some people would go, oh, I don't know if that's worth it. Again, I was fine even though it wasn't worth it 3 times, let's say again. So that's a big point, right? He won't go back on because he's a grifter. Well, we just debunked that, I think. Is that fair? Is that a full debunking? I went on 3 times. How many more times before I'm just a permanent... Why would I want to be a permanent Tim Pool co-host? That would be weird. And there was never a nicely written letter. Thank you so much. And you try to represent it like I asked for money when I didn't, and you know that. And then the final part is he goes, Luke did a show with a conservative. And from talking to people like that, I can't remember the exact wording, and Luke himself, it's clear that Luke just says what he needs to say for views or for money. There is so much. Who he's referring to is Isabella Moody. A while ago, we did the show The Grudge, and I was trying to change these really far right people's minds, and we did this reoccurring show where I would try to do that. Isabella and Josiah Moody. And since the show ended, she has admittedly gone further off the deep end. It didn't work. I failed at it. I tried. I failed. But he's talking about Isabella Moody. There's so much. I try not to because the show's over. I just want to move on from that. But I try not to like turn around and continue criticizing her. There's just no reason. It's not really productive. But there is so much I could say about what she puts out publicly and privately. One thing I don't think you can say is that Isabella or Josiah would accuse me of being a grifter. Say what you want about them, and I've said much. But despite all of that, I don't think either of them would accuse me, because here's how we know. The thing that caused the show to end was that I was still whining and bitching and complaining at them behind the scenes about their far-right views. I was still being an annoying liberal to them behind the scenes. Ask them. Meaning, on and off camera, that was the issue. I actually did care about those things enough to have the show fall apart because it became too emotionally weighted and too intense to on camera and off camera be constantly stressing about expressing my views to them. So it's interesting he cited them too. And then as if something I said to him demonstrated I was a grifter. Insane. And I've now been doing this since, I can't remember, was I 19 or 20 when I first started posting political YouTube videos? But like, you can watch it. And of course, after doing it a while, we got very lucky. And I'm so grateful that a big audience was able to be grown. But there is just so much documentation of what I believe, why I believe it. I talk about my parents, how I'm inspired by them and the work they've done in the world. And if you know me well, you know this is me. And so it just falls pretty darn flat for someone who literally was a part of a scandal of Russian money being flown to him without him knowing, to accuse someone else, and especially me, of just doing things for money. That's pretty bonkers, Jaden, I have to say, and Cole. All right, next one. That's kind of the big intro. Got through the intro. Now we'll look at him addressing my first claim on Jubilee.
Game. Let's look.
I should say, if you do appreciate this show and you stand as a proud Beasleyan, is that the one we chose? Against the attacks of people like Tim Pool, please do click the subscribe button. It's free, so you're not making me money. I mean, in a sense, if you grow an audience larger than blah, blah, blah. But if you do want to make me money, I'll just say it, Frank. If you want to fund these guys, you want to fund our business, you can become a member by clicking the join button. And that's where we do the bonus show. And I've ranted about a lot of things that I don't feel as comfortable just because they're a little bit too personal ranting about on the big show. But on the members only bonus show, that's where that type of stuff happens. Here's him addressing my first claim.
Listen to what Luke has to say.
Claim is MAGAnomics is terrible for the economy.
What? Bro, this is the problem with Jubilee. And this is direct commentary for you, Jubilee. Stop falsely abusing the copyright system. Bro, that's not a claim. MAGAnomics, define it. Are you talking about tariffs? Man, spare me. I hate this too because watch this. Okay, bro, let's be real. There's no way anybody on this back half of Luke is gaining that chair. Like, I'll let you jump over him. Oh, look at that. The guy who was closest to the chair got the chair.
Can we get back to...
Stupid. This is fake. This is why we don't do this. When we do the Culture War podcast, we have people write down arguments and we call them up. The last time they did, they wrote down questions. I said, guys, no questions, arguments.
Blanky.
Very nice to meet you.
Let's just start here, okay?
This guy's wearing a suit.
Because you would agree Trump's landmark economic policy is tariff.
There we
That's
go.
like
Let's
his
go.
biggest thing.
Well, let's start with the big picture. Trump has
Tariffs.
the right.
Oh, one other thing I just remembered that he said was when I went on and we debated Enrique Tarrio, he said he was 30% wrong, but 70% right. If you ever hear someone like Tim Pool admit that they were 30% wrong, they were wrong. No one's ever going to go, I was 30% wrong. At least the likes of Tim Pool, and they were actually only 30% wrong. Now, we've reviewed that. I can't play it again because we've played it so many times, and it's kind of a long clip. But it's the clip where he virally yells at me, saying, I don't understand, the January 6ers are being persecuted. And then he thinks he got me on Enrique Tarrio, and then I explain what the Enrique Tarrio case was, and then he goes, and looks it up, and then it's what I said. So that's him being 30% wrong. Which means maybe the 30%, it was more like the 3% of the clip that I got to talk proved 100% of him was wrong. So that's where that comes from.
Right vision with
we'll get there. Let's just get clear. Who pays the tariff?
Okay, so first of all, I'm a businessman. I do gross CFO work around the world. I got hundreds of clients. I've been 30 years of building businesses.
Beautiful.
I can tell you firsthand the reason why many of my American companies can't get into foreign markets is because of tariff barriers.
Just because Trump always seems confused about this, who is it that pays a tariff?
Well, the importer does.
The importer.
Right.
So every time Trump says foreign countries are the ones who pay the tariff, it's not U.S. companies, he's lying.
That's true. It's
He's
importer,
lying.
it's
Okay,
importer,
good.
it's
Weird for his...
Technicality. The argument Trump is making, and Luke isn't wrong. The argument you'll get on the...
Okay, so point one, where he's going to try to correct me, he starts with, I'm not wrong. Now, let's listen to him, and then I'm going to show you a Trump clip.
Right, as it pertains to tariffs, is that Trump is 100% incorrect when he says the foreign company pays the tariff. Technically, his argument is that it creates a cost barrier for their product, and they have to try and drop their prices to compete in the United States, which if they can't do, it doesn't work. The goal of the tariff, of course, is to make it so that it's cheaper to build a business in America than in China, which I agree with because American laborers can't compete with $1 an hour Indonesian labor or Chinese labor. But let's hear it, Luke.
Whole economic policy.
All right, so let me just quickly. He says semantics. Or no, he said technicality. Because what I'm trying to establish in that clip is it's going to be difficult for us to talk about Trump's economic policy if the thing he's most focused on, tariffs, we don't have a common understanding of. And so if you're sitting across from me literally thinking that China, when we impose a tariff, is sending us a check, that would alter both of our understanding of that policy because that would be a very different economic maneuver, however you would do that. And when Trump says stuff like this,
I think China's been very respectful of us. They're paying tremendous amounts of money to us as in the form of tariffs.
They're paying significant amounts of money to us through tariffs. Is it a technicality to say that's a lie? Because if words like that don't mean they're paying us directly, then I don't know what we're doing with this language. He makes it sound like they're paying us directly. That would be a very different policy, right? Because how companies wouldn't have to be the ones paying. So then how it's affecting them would change. So I'm not just doing this to get a gotcha out of the Trump supporters. Does it run through my mind that if I go, who pays the tariff? And they're like, China, that would be funny. Yeah, kind of.
China!
But the reason that even interpersonally with no cameras, I would still want to lay that groundwork, maybe not as punchy, not as in a punchy way, but I would want to lay that common understanding is because how are we even going to talk about tariffs if you don't know what one is? And the fact that Trump runs around saying China's paying us, he doesn't say the effect of the tariffs of U.S. companies having this extra trade barrier because they're having to pay more when they import stuff will cause China or Chinese companies to either have to lower their costs or for American manufacturers to look elsewhere or manufacture in the United States. And so that would end up in a way harming China if the series of events goes the way that I'm expecting it to go with the... Does he say that? No. He just says they're paying us, which is to mislead people so they don't know exactly what the policy even is. Now, that doesn't mean, as Tim thinks, I guess, I'm arguing, that tariffs are never an economic tool or a public policy tool that you could use effectively. There are targeted areas where I would think they're fine. But that trade-off is still there of what is the impact going to be on prices and on the supply chain. And so I guess he doesn't really disagree with me there, but he acts like he sort of does and then just confirms that I'm correct.
To be based on a lie, but okay,
well, what does it do? So the tariff barriers create fair access. So it's all about fairdom. Americans, look around look around the room. You got some of the most talented people you will ever know in the world. We can give us a chance to compete, level playing field. We will do the work. We will bring in the international business. Many of our jobs are with globalization, which I led. Many of our jobs.
I gotta stress this. I love this so much. Let me start here. When I was younger. Me and my friends started a nonprofit fund.
Oh, yeah. Then he goes on, I'm sorry, I got to find certain places to skip. 30 minutes. I can't hear the whole skate. Is this a skateboard story or a different story? He has long stories about his own things. Fine, interesting. You can take that down, Jade, and we'll go to the next clip. I don't think we need to listen through the whole personal anecdote about him starting a company with his friends, but it's going to argue the effects of tariffs. We all know. We know. There's going to be a certain impact of adding that barrier. And then we'll get to, as he makes more points about it later, why what Trump is doing is irrational, which you've heard before on the show many times, but we're gonna listen.
Let's hear it.
Gone international because of unfair tariff practices. Even when we had property in China, we had to hire a non-tariff barrier. We had to hire a Chinese spy to be in our telecom company, still in our secrets.
Okay, that's like a random anecdote. We got to go more. When you look at the impact, we've seen job growth slowing. We've seen GDP growth slowing.
San fact check. Jubilee points this out. GDP increased 3.8% during the second quarter of 25, nearly identical to the same period in 24. Average monthly job gains have slowed, but the unemployment rate and the total number of unemployed people hasn't changed. That's massive. Because what this means is Trump's tariffs have created a barrier, so it's harder for U.S. companies to buy cheap Chinese labor. More likely to result in Americans building up industry. We're not going to get the direct impact right away, but we need to build industry in the United States. Luke, you are so ignorant on this issue, and you are wrong.
Come back on the show.
Come back and debate in the culture war. What's going on? But we've tried rebooking this guy. He won't do it.
I went on 3 times. This is so genius. Okay, so he's going to think that fact check disproved me. They put up the second quarter. So there was this weird wonky economic thing that happened because the tariffs were imposed and that had a sharp impact. And then there was an adjustment and there was a rebound. But what was my argument there? Under Trump, GDP growth has slowed compared to the end of Biden, right? Tim sees the fact check where they just show the second quarter, which was not my point. But instead, since he's been in office, because the first quarter was really impacted by the tariffs. And to get this just in numbers terms, Biden, the GDP growth, the last 2 quarters of Biden was an average, if you average the 2 quarters together, of 2.75%. And then the growth in Trump's first 2 quarters was 1.6%. If you average the 2 quarters together. So, did GDP growth slow under Trump? Yes, it did. They just put second quarter. I understand why, but the big announcement about tariffs caused that contraction, and then a bunch of companies had prepared for the tariffs to be imposed, which had contributed to the contraction, and there was this big bounce back after that, and then we'll see where it all levels out, most likely slowing. But the average of 2 quarters is a slowed GDP growth compared to the end of Biden's term, which was my point. And then unemployment, if we'll take that down, I'll show this. Once again, the unemployment rate is going up under Trump. You can see it on screen. So the other weird thing with the fact check is, like, if it's a fact check, be specific. They said that's around what it was under Biden. Yeah, around 4%. But that's actually really important distinction, which is it was around 4% all through Biden once they had recovered from the pandemic. And so they had this really steady unemployment. It's notable that because we're getting these really bad job growth reports, that's starting to impact, not jumping from 4 to 10 immediately, but starting to impact in an upward way the unemployment figures. So both of those would be what you'd call correct. Wait, let's see. Where are we picking up here? Right here.
Debate in the culture war. What's going on? But we've tried rebooking this guy. He won't do it.
Unemployment ticking up.
My gosh.
Employment.
He's completely wrong.
Getting worse.
I'm completely
That's
right.
That's all an impact of him slapping these features.
He won't pause. I'm completely right. 2.75 versus 1.6. And you can't say, well, the first quarter was Biden. When we looked into the GDP growth figures, or in this case, a lack of growth, a decrease, and saw exactly where tariffs were causing that contraction that then averaged with the next month is a slowing.
He's also tariffing.
No, that's is it the problem with this guy? But I can understand why he does well. When you just say things without merit, which they've already proven to be wrong, then, there you go. Liberals will follow you because you're making things up. Spurious correlation. He says unemployment is up. It's not.
It is.
The economy is bad. There are some issues with the economy, but bad, it's kind of like meh.
Wait,
because you're making...
Just because he's really lobbing this confidently, take it down again. I just want to put this up. Let me zoom in like this. Let's play this. Now you can show it.
Things up. Spurious correlation. He says unemployment is up. It's not. The economy is bad. There are some issues with the economy, but bad, it's kind of like meh, right? And then he goes, that's because of tariffs.
I didn't say the economy is bad, by the way. I said it's getting worse.
You've got no evidence that's the case.
Quickly, Brazil, which we have a trade surplus with, so it's not the...
In 2024, the U.S. had a $6.8 billion trade surplus on goods with Brazil.
Oh, good. I'm sorry I'm pausing so much. Podcast listeners, for dramatic effect, while he was saying that, I was putting up the debunking of him on the unemployment, and then I read out to you the GDP growth. So in case you thought I was just playing that without a rebuttal, I put it on screen.
The U.S. had a services trade surplus of $23.1 billion.
Trade barrier reason. He's tariffing countries where it doesn't even make coherent sense because he's upset about this thing or that thing, but then we're the ones paying the consequences.
Let's be clear.
That's incoherent.
Let's be clear about impact.
Wow. Here's the challenge we face. Luke is a grifter. The issue is that he's trying to make sound bites. He's arrogant, agitated, and ignorant. I've told this story a million times. I'll tell it again. I'm a skateboarder.
And to the skateboard anecdotes, which I guess he's going to make the point that he was able to structure his business U.S. made. Awesome. I love when companies are able to be U.S. made. I'm taking issue with when you slap on everything and everywhere, as Trump did, and you say it's reciprocal tariffs. So it is an argument for other countries dropping their trade barriers. That is what Trump was saying initially. And then Tim comes along and says, no, that's not even what he's arguing. But that's what the whole reciprocal tariff chart was for. If it's not for that reason, why is he putting bigger tariffs on countries he perceives to have bigger trade barriers? So then my point is, if that's the point, why is he tariffing? We know why, because he's upset that his friend's being prosecuted in Brazil. But why is he tariffing Brazil when we had a trade surplus with them? Tim Pool reads out the fact check and it's just saying what I said. And he's like, whatever, skateboards. Now he says in that clip that I was irritated and agitated, I think. Agitated? What did he say? Let's hear this.
I have a skateboard.
I'm going to try to debunk this. Let's see.
He's trying to make sound bites. He's arrogant, agitated, and ignorant.
Arrogant, agitated, and ignorant. Let's see how agitated I was.
You look very swanky.
Very nice to meet you. My friend, Luke, nice to meet you.
Hi.
Hi, Luke. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'll go ahead and give you that.
It's a pleasure. Nice to meet you.
Doing a good job over there, buddy. You're tough.
Thank you.
Get out of here.
Good to say. Thank you. Nice to meet you, Shane.
Saying Antifa.
Oh, no.
Did the fake media, and I had a detective that was...
It's a nice voice.
Yeah, it's useful.
Oh, she's back.
Let's talk.
You're charming. Oh, stop.
What do you
I like
do?
your bandana.
That way I get a picture with you for my grandkids.
We'll get a photo.
Okay, pause. We're out of time.
I don't seem very agitated. I could have been agitated. Did you see how often they weren't even hearing what I was saying? But I wasn't. I was having a good time. So then he does a skateboard anecdote. Then we'll move forward. And again, it's just him arguing that his personal experience informs that adding trade barriers incentivize U.S. manufacturing. I guess I could address that a little bit right now. Here's a big problem. Number one, it's not working, which was a part of my point there. Number two, it's just really expansive. So it's not, here's a sector that we could reasonably adjust the supply chain so that there's more manufacturing going on in the United States that requires maybe incentives here and then also disincentives with the tariffs for going elsewhere. And we can target it because we think that this product, this industry could reasonably in a few years shift where they're creating their product. That's not what Trump's doing, which is why he keeps adding and then removing and then going, oh, wait, why do I have this on food products? Remove. And later you're going to hear Tim go, now it is kind of stupid that Trump put tariffs on coffee because that's not really something we could just click our heels together and create a bunch of coffee. The part of the world does determine where you can create coffee. And that's the point. He's just throwing it on everything without much regard for how realistic it is that we could shift the supply chains. And then the other part of it is that there's not a long-term plan here. Trump has now shifted, like, I forget what the number one was, but like dozens of times what the tariff rates are and who they're on. And so every 2 seconds he changes. We're taking them off, we're putting them on, exemption, now we're doing this, now we're off of food, on this, off that, on everyone, off that.
Stop.
Exactly. You have no idea the physical toll that 3 tariff changes have on a person. And so what are companies going to do? Change their 2-decade plan? Their 2-decade factory or manufacturing plan for a choice that Trump could reverse tomorrow? Probably not. And when you hear from business leaders and a lot of people in this world, you hear that there's no long-term plan, and they also know that Trump's going to leave office and probably this stuff will get reversed. So they're just going to have to pass down those costs to the consumers, not make any changes to how many people they're employing in the United States, and just bear through the storm, understanding Trump could change his mind, which he keeps doing, or someone else will get into office, which is a part of the incoherence. It's not that you can't ever use a tariff in a smart way. It's that Trump's not doing it in a smart way, and it's just on everything. Because he's simple-minded. All right, to this part.
Luke doesn't understand this because he's never run a business and hasn't witnessed how they've destroyed our aluminum refineries, our steel, and our woodworking.
In the second quarter.
So again, you could make more, I don't know about those specific cases, but more of a coherent argument in a targeted way. Like Biden kept some of the Trump era China tariffs. And then you start saying, if we have that long term under different administrations, we could see there's going to be a trade-off. There could be a price impact. But number one, it's narrow. It's a narrow industry or set of industries, so it's not going to ripple the whole economy. And we have a very specific purpose. We want to be less reliant on China for this thing. And that's fine. And Biden kept some of those. So all the ranting and the venting just misses exactly why people are against what Trump's doing.
We're still, what we just finished, in the second quarter, GDP was at 3%, which is a normal range for us. Core inflation is at 2.1 to 2.4%, which is normal for us. Unemployment down at 4%.
You agree that we saw 48 consecutive months of job growth under Biden, and then Trump came in and we lost jobs for the first time in June?
Which jobs? Fact check. President Biden had consistent job growth during his administration, but 8 million of those jobs were for making up COVID losses. Dude, this is why Luke won't come back on the show.
Oh my gosh, Tim! Tim! Take me to dinner first! Oh my gosh. I don't think he realizes how it's coming off. You gotta stop saying that. That's really weird. 3 times. That's brutal. It's brutal. This is so fun. Okay. He yells the 8 million of those jobs were rebound jobs. Number one, it's not a given that we would just rebound out of the pandemic like we did. Hey, how do I know? Because compare our rebound to every other developed country's rebound. See how much more effective ours was. Okay, so that's number one. Number two, what about the 8 other million jobs? Because it wasn't just 8 million jobs of job growth. It was 16. So what about the other 8 million? And what about how we came out of our recovery was more effective than all of our comparable wealthy countries, including once inflation globally spiked, we were more effective at bringing it down fast. Oh gosh, the crick in my neck. Today was going to be such a great day talking about this, and I'm so irritated. The crick. Of course. I think Tim Pool gave me this crick. Tim Pool is to people what cricks are to necks. I thought you were going to like that more, Jaden. Okay.
Dude, this is why Luke won't come back on the show. He'd get roasted in 2 seconds. Joe Biden's job growth on the chart is because they say Trump lost 8 million jobs. COVID shut it all down. Those were by state. Trump takes some responsibility for that.
I think it was.
Why aren't you responding to what I'm saying? I said Trump lost jobs this term, not net. Listen, just this isn't, no one, I did this in the bar fight thing too, and they're like, oh, you're blaming him for the pandemic? Wait. Listen for a second, please. The last time we had a negative job growth month was Trump's first term. Wait, before you go, but the pandemic, okay, I got it. Then we saw job growth all throughout Biden's presidency. And then he handed that economy to Trump. And all of a sudden we had a job loss, or maybe job losses now, months. That's pretty notable, eh? That you could have that sustained job growth. And the second Trump gets in, or a few months later, all of a sudden we're losing jobs in particular months. That's a notable stat. Now listen to the way he words this. Oh, I don't know if it's here. At some point he gets really discombobulated on the pandemic.
Joe Biden's job growth on the chart is because they say Trump lost 8 million jobs. COVID shut it all down. Those were by state. Trump takes some responsibility for that.
No, he doesn't.
I think it was.
But we agree there's 4% unemployment, which is a.
Well, he was handed 4% unemployment,
and he was handed down 8 million jobs, and then COVID ended and restarted them. This dude is a sophist grifter. Luke, come on.
No way he's about to say it again. No way.
And then COVID ended and restarted them. This dude is a sophist grifter. Luke, come on. Come back on the culture war. Let's play.
Oh my gosh. I don't want to play with you in the sandbox. Okay, so really listen to this part because I'm confused. Trump, the guy I'm debating in the Jubilee video says, as justification for Trump's economic policies, that unemployment's around 4%. And I go, well, it was around 4% when Biden left, so that's what Trump got. How is that an achievement of his when it is pushing up now? And Tim says, well, he got handed 8 million less jobs. What? Wait, listen.
He was handed down 8 million jobs.
Well, he was handed 4% unemployment.
And he was handed down 8 million jobs, and then COVID ended and restarted them. This dude is a sophist grifter. Luke, come on. Come back on the culture war. Let's play.
What does that point mean? No, Trump wasn't handed 8 million jobs down, to use your wording. I said Trump was handed 4% unemployment by Biden. So you can't say that's a victory of his. And Tim says, well, he was handed 8 million jobs down and then it reversed. Maybe he thought I was saying Biden, but Biden being handed less jobs is not the same as Trump being handed more jobs. That makes sense to you, right? That follows. He thought... Yes, both presidents inherited their predecessor's economy. Trump inherited a strong economy. Biden inherited a terrible economy. That makes your point? What? Okay.
Can't give him credit for that. That's what Biden gave him.
Okay.
Agreed. Biden's economy was good?
Not agreed. In Biden's economy, inflation went up. There were some years, 9%.
Well, we handled it better than...
I've got no problem saying... well, take away the whole COVID argument. Say Trump didn't cost any jobs on COVID. He's some responsibility. The states did this. It was COVID. I say hindsight is 20/20. I got a lot of things wrong on COVID. That's fine. Some people were perfectly right on it. I think it's hard to know exactly at the time. And we look back and, hindsight is 20/20. We think we should have been right. And maybe we just couldn't have been. I will say this. I don't have...
I was completely and 100% correct on everything during COVID. I just didn't have a show back then, so you can't prove that. Unlike Tim, I got nothing wrong on COVID before I posted anything on YouTube. Behind the scenes, I was nailing it.
Massive arguments necessarily with the Biden economy as a whole based on these numbers. There were certain issues at the time where it was like egg shortages and weird prices and all that stuff, price increases. But you know what? I'll say this. The question is which jobs? The argument on tariffs is not about the core economic numbers. It is about, do we have working class opportunity? And if you're arguing that GDP is up because the wealthiest are making more money, but the poorest are making less, I ain't on board for that.
Okay, well, that's it. That's it. Because that's what his whole bill just did. So simultaneously, he's causing working class people to have to pay more on food, even food that we can't manufacture here, that we can't shift the supply chain to make more jobs to make that food here. And working class people are having to pay more for it while they're losing their health care so that people can get tax cuts whenever they're in the highest income bracket. Yeah, that is what I'm arguing in this whole debate. You can't just scream at me, you're a sophist. You're just tricking people with your smooth words. And then scream through you agreeing with me. Because most of your followers are going to be like, yeah, that guy was a loser. I don't know. Tim seemed upset, and I think Luke is a loser. Wait, did you hear that he just agreed with me?
Okay. G7 counterparts, that was kind of a pandemic thing.
We have $6 trillion of new foreign direct investment coming in. We have a focus on AI. We have a focus on energy. Trump has a right vision for Americans and probably people like you.
So let's talk again about his argument, right, is that we're going to bring in a bunch of domestic manufacturers, which will be more expensive. Otherwise, we would have been manufacturing here already. We sent them elsewhere because it was cheaper. And so he's saying we'll bring factories back.
You're saying you sent our jobs. You're saying you sent our jobs elsewhere. It's not the manufacturing that's important. They used to have 20,000 manufacturing companies around Chicago alone. Many of them left never to return, which are jobs for people like the people in the room and people that support you.
And the solution
that is not good for us.
Broad strokes, draconian tariffs, as shown by we're losing manufacturing. We're losing manufacturing.
The U.S. has lost 70,000 manufacturing jobs over the last year, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Indeed. See,
There's never been a more beautiful video. It's just like, I was on the bonus show recently ranting about how none of these popular right-wing conservatives ever make hate videos about me. And I get it, because I'm not really provocative. I try to be a uniter. Even if I express my views that are liberal strongly, I try not to be super personal. So I get why I don't garner a lot of attacks, but it would be fun to have someone be like, oh, Luke, you're terrible, and then get to respond like we're doing here.
Soy boy beta cuck, Luke Beasley.
But I never could have dreamed that it would be like this. He goes, here's a fact check on screen of Luke. The U.S. has lost 78,000 manufacturing jobs. Indeed. As if that proves his point. Because he kept saying, what jobs? What jobs? What manufacturing jobs? Which is what Trump said he was bringing back.
The U.S. has lost 78,000 manufacturing jobs over the last year, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Indeed. See, this is why I got to... The Jubilee stuff isn't actually informing us on anything. Luke Beasley is consistently missing context, wrong, or engaging in sophistry. The man he's debating with didn't have the proper rebuttal when he said, well, but Joe Biden had good job growth. He's like, because this is why I don't like these Jubilee things, okay? And this is why we don't do it that way on the culture war. I will say this. I have already given you the example of skateboards. I have already criticized Donald Trump's tariffs on coffee. I also have a coffee business at castbrew.com. And what I've brought up is...
I'm the one who's focused about money. And also buy my skateboards. And also buy my coffee. I saw you had something called pool water. Buy my pool water. See, I did a free plug for you. Also, Tim, if you want to demonetize this video because your content's in it, go ahead. I don't care. I don't need to make any money on it. Wait, he said Luke is a sophist. He loves that term. Which is like, using rhetorical tricks to seem convincing when you're actually being dishonest. But he keeps saying that type of stuff and then immediately either not disproving me or flat out agreeing with me. He just went, I've already criticized Trump's tariffs on, and then he goes into an example. Do you know what that means? That he also agrees they're too broad strokes, which is what I just said in the clip he just played. I didn't say tariffs at all. I said how broad and expansive they are. That word agree. And then you kept screaming, which jobs? Manufacturing jobs. You kept saying the reason is not just any job number, but to actually make sure that working class people can get manufacturing jobs. Well, then it's failing. Because of course, these business leaders aren't going to make a decision that tomorrow could backfire when Trump gets a whim and changes his entire tariff policy. Who would do that? So their only option is to essentially hurt financially or pass down the cost to their consumers.
Donald Trump's tariffs on coffee. I also have a coffee business at castbrew.com. And what I've brought up is it makes no sense to tariff coffee because coffee can only be grown in the United States in Kona. It's Hawaiian coffee. It's expensive. It's some of the best, I might add. Seriously, it's amazing, that good volcanic soil. Let's go. But coffee is produced in warmer areas that we don't really have. And so we're going to be importing coffee. That's what we do. For Trump to tariff all coffee, I'm like, all you're doing is making it harder for people to have coffee. That's not the right move. However, all in all, Trump has been targeting these tariffs for two reasons. As I already mentioned, to build a culture in...
Okay, then he continues. But what was that? What the hell was that? That's my point.
What the hell was that?
Thank you. That's my point. Is that like a little petulant child throwing around tariffs whenever you get a urge and not actually thinking through how would certain industries even react to these tariffs is not effective. But going, oh, this industry actually could plausibly manufacture here, and it's something that a narrow enough block of consumers that people don't necessarily, we don't think consumers would be hurt too much in the broad economy by prices going up a little bit. So we're going to do that. We're going to do semiconductors. We're going to do that. We think there's a bunch of reasons why we should have them here. Makes sense. Cool. That's not what he's doing. And you just gave a perfect example. Why the hell would we tariff coffee? It's just going to make it more expensive. We're not going to then just start doing the coffee. You know how that goes. The coffee things. The beans. Making the beans into coffee. Etc. Right? We can't just do that here. for the reasons he explained.
Two.
Tell me why we're not. I can talk about companies I work for.
Google it. We'll
I can
do a
talk
fact
about
check on
companies I work
screen.
for. The manufacturing
We lost
coming back.
manufacturing jobs
They
last
have more
month.
orders they can deliver.
But those are anecdotal, not the
But
broader
tell me
stats
why.
on this.
Tell me why you're against fair trade for Americans.
Oh, I'm for that. Heck yeah. And if Trump wanted to negotiate,
then how do you get to it without doing tariffs?
if he wanted to use it as a threat, right? He goes to countries. He says, "You have these trade barriers. If you don't reduce them, I'm gonna."
That's not the issue, bruh. I'm gonna say it again. This is why Luke Beasley doesn't want to come on the show, brother.
I know Cole made the compilation of him saying come on the show, but watching it in context is jarring. 3 times. How many times has he said it? 5? Did he get up to 6 times saying come on the show? My gosh. You're desperate. He was out there being like, listen, views in conservative media, they're just down. All of conservative media, they're just down. Except for Candace. They're all down. And that's just the way that it is. And it's like, is that why you keep saying this? Is it just, hey, I'm not judging. We have ups and we have downs. And sometimes when we're down, I'm like, oh, maybe we could get an interesting guest on or something. I guess that's what you're doing. But I just don't know if it's an interesting way to try to goad someone into being onto a show, being like, you suck and I hate you and you're a grifter. Can you please come? Really? That's kind of a weird way to appeal. And also, at some point, the other conservative shows will start getting jealous that I've only gone on Tim over and over again. Like, if I'm gonna fly out somewhere for a big show, I probably should give someone else a little bit of time, other than just you, who now have done over and over and over. I keep doing you over and over and over.
That's not the issue, bruh. I'm going to say it again. This is why Luke Beasley doesn't want to come on the show. Brother, it's that a Chinese worker is going to get $3 an hour. An American, they want what? A $30 an hour minimum wage. So how are y'all on the Democrat side? I'm not saying you personally because maybe you didn't argue this. Going to say in New York we should have a $30 minimum wage.
I've never said that.
But we're going to allow companies to send manufacturing jobs and any kind of digital services to China for a couple bucks an hour. Guess what? No one's going to have a job at $30.
I slap tariffs. That would be one thing. That's not what he did.
So you think
It's like, who are you arguing against? Did I say that in the video?
if these threats work?
But that's not what happened.
We're not talking about trade reciprocity on tariffs.
We're not talking about trade reciprocity on tariffs. Then what the hell were reciprocal tariffs? That's what Trump called them. He said they were reciprocal. Reciprocal reciprocity. Reciprocal reciprocity. Aren't those the same word? Oh, my cheeks are getting red. Wow. He said, do you even watch the news? Sometimes I don't think the people who defend Trump watch Trump as much as we watch Trump. Trump came out and can you pull up actually the Liberation Day tariff poster board? Trump Liberation Day poster. And get that on the screen, because this is going to blow your mind right out the top of your beanie. Oh, Tim. Sorry. That was mean. And he says they were, actually, while he's putting that up, listen to this again, okay?
These threats work.
But that's not what happened.
We're not talking about trade reciprocity on tariffs. Sometimes.
We're not talking about trade reciprocity on tariffs. Sometimes. Jaden, pull that up and tell me what it says at the top of the darn poster.
Reciprocal tariffs.
Trump's holding a poster that says reciprocal tariffs. Keep it up there. Keep it up there.
But that's not what happened.
We're not talking about trade reciprocity on tariffs. Sometimes.
Reciprocal. It's funny because he happened to use the exact term that Trump uses. That's exactly what he was talking about. Now, Trump also, this is my point. He also says he's doing it for the sake of the reason you're saying, which is trade barriers. But if you wanted to have, even by his logic, a coherent tariff approach, you would have one policy. We're doing this tariff amount on these countries and these industries for these reasons, and we are telling that's going to be permanent. I'm going to convince my successor, Republican or Democrat, to keep these. We're going to also pass it through U.S. law and not through Trump's presidential authority that can be easily overturned. We're going to pass it through U.S. law that we have these tariffs on these industries to make us less dependent on China and this country and that. And then I'm going to do it over, and it's going to be permanent. And then we're going to tell companies, this is it forever. And we're keeping it exactly like this forever. And I'm going to get the future administration to make sure they hold it through. And it's going to be in U.S. law. It's going to be very hard to reverse. And we're going to keep this on forever. So your only option is you pay more or you move here. And you can, because we're putting them on industries that actually plausibly could be stuff that we make here, not just random things that we would never make here. And then we're going to have incentives. We're going to pass something like the Chips and Science Act under Biden that incentivizes them not just to not create things in a different. Let me use an example. Not just to disincentivize manufacturing stuff and then importing it from China, as an example, but not anywhere else. Because a lot of times it'll just shift from China to a different country, India or something. And so we're going to have the carrot and the stick, and it's going to be long term. It's not going to budge. Trump's not going to make a different decision. It's going to be in U.S. law. It's going to be very steady. And then we're going to hopefully see the proper impact of that. That would be how you do Trump's argument part A, which is us putting barriers will cause manufacturing to move here. Not, I'm mad at Canada, now I'm not. I'm mad at Mexico, now I'm not. I'm mad at Brazil because of Bolsonaro, now I'm not. China, 100%, 200%, 10%, 30%. Why would you make a business decision about changing the supply chain when he's changing his mind every 2 seconds? So part A makes no sense because of that. That's a part of my criticism. Then part B is reciprocal, which he said, and you said that's not what it's about, which is exactly his Liberation Day tariffs were all about, which was saying that if you have high trade barriers on us, we're going to tariff you to get you to remove them. Then Trump's not doing that. He got rid of that plan and is just sending out tariff rates and is still changing them all the time. So both part A and part B of the argument are completely ridiculous. Was that just sophistry, Tim? Is that what you perceive that as? You know exactly what I'm saying, too, if you're watching this. If you're watching this, come on my show. You know exactly what I'm saying, too, and it's eating you alive. Because you agree.
But that's not what happened.
We're not talking about trade reciprocity on tariffs. Sometimes I am saying right now, the argument for tariffs principally is not, well, they tariff us, we should tariff them. There is an argument there, and you can counter that argument. But I'm going to ask you this, Luke. How do you've got two workers, okay? One guy wants to do online phone call fundraising. He gets a $30 minimum wage. The company he works for says, I can hire an Indian guy to do it for $1. Who's going to hire? You think they should be like, well, I'd rather just lose the money and hire the $30? No. But with tariffs on imported goods, I can't talk about digital services. They're going to say, I'm going to hire a guy at $30 an hour in America or $3 in China. And then Trump goes, actually, with tariffs, no one's going to buy your product.
Horrible Trump impression. So sad, Tim. Your little Tim is disappointed. It's going up inside of you. So sad.
He said this in 2016, and Michael Moore famously came out and said, Donald Trump.
So then he goes on to play Michael Moore clip. I've addressed it all. Here's where you could use them effectively. You could do it a targeted way, but there's still going to be the trade-off. But Trump running on affordability, which he did, even though now he acts like it's a scam, then turning around and doing something that even if you thought it was worth it long-term would still push up prices, and then doing it incoherently and not whimsically. That makes sense. Whimsically makes it sound like he's skipping around, but like in this disjointed, sudden, wacky way. You get it. I've explained it now like 4 times throughout the segment. All right, let's look at the ending.
These jobs back. Luke, you are ignorant and arrogant on this issue.
He just slapped tariffs on the whole world.
What's the arrogant? I get ignorant because he thinks I'm wrong, even though that I think you all agree has not been proven. But arrogant, I feel like in this debate in particular too, I was being so nice. I was being nice. It's a weird thing to say about yourself, but I'm kind of a nice guy. I'm kind of a nice guy. Like, I'm not trying to humiliate you or be mean. The beanie thing was a little low. Okay, I take that back. But mostly, I'm trying to be nice. And then disagree. What's this arrogant? I don't feel arrogant. I'm the least arrogant person there's ever been, I'll have you know. And the most humble.
You are ignorant and arrogant on this issue.
He just slapped tariffs on the whole world, including an island with penguins on it, and then started.
Okay. Another lie from the left and in their ignorance. This is why Luke Beasley won't come on the show. The island with penguins on it. First of all, whether an island has penguins or not is not relevant to whether or not there should be a tariff. However, this island in question, there's two. They don't have any inhabitants. Just penguins. And Democrats came out and said, why is Trump tariffing penguins? Because there's corporations.
Can I stop? I'm going to let him make that argument because he's wrong, which is funny. But first off, why would you go step one? You're wrong because just the fact that they're penguins on an island doesn't mean that they couldn't be tariffed. I'm saying it's silly when you tariff a territory that doesn't have anything but some penguins. Like it probably has other things. Maybe a tree. I don't know. Wait. It's probably pretty cold if there's penguins. Maybe there aren't trees, but whatever. Ice? What? And it's funny that he dresses that like that's the part of the argument. That's a part of the argument. Oh, so you think that tariffs can't be imposed against penguins? Try me.
There should be a tariff.
Come on the show.
However, this island in question, there's two. They don't have any inhabitants. Just penguins. And Democrats came out and said, why is Trump tariffing penguins? Because there's corporations there that send machinery from these islands where work is done to other countries. So Trump said, no loopholes. And then they lied.
These islands have no corporations and no machinery. And he made that up. Because when he said that, when I was watching it initially, I was like, oh, maybe that got memed and we missed that there was an underlying reason for it. Like, it is funny that there's no inhabitants. So it's like, you've been tariffed, penguins. That's funny. Because the broader point is, wow, you're going so broad with these tariffs. It still would have been funny, even if what Tim said was correct. So then when he said that, I was like, maybe he's right. That would have been a loophole that you should close. If you want these tariffs, which I don't, but then I looked into it and he's wrong. So what he's talking about, the Heard and McDonald Islands.
McDonald's cheeseburger.
Yeah, we had to. And I looked into it and he's just making that up. There are no corporations. There is no loophole. Australia, who is, owning the islands, it's an external territory of Australia, so they wouldn't allow that. It doesn't happen. It wasn't happening. He made it up. And logistically, it would be near impossible for that to work. There would be no mechanism to do whatever he said when that's not set up or happening. So it's weird that he said that so confidently because that's not true. And actually, let me see if we can get a quick ChatGPT version of this. The islands are uninhabited, have no ports, no industry, and no commercial infrastructure. They are controlled by Australia and heavily environmentally restricted. They don't allow industrial activity there, nor would it permit companies to set up tariff dodging operations. So even if a company absurdly wanted to try this, Australia wouldn't let them. Using a remote flag of convenience location doesn't circumvent U.S. tariffs anyways. It goes on. But that's the ChatGPT response, which isn't the ultimate truth, but it's interesting that I'd be curious to find where he got that from.
Trying to make deals, but it wasn't really working. So he just started, really hear this? Not very many. It was like 3 that were actual deals. And then he just started sending letters to countries with no concessions saying, hey, this is your tariff rate. So there was no concession. We still have to pay higher tariffs here. We don't get the benefits that he says we're going to get, but we get the downsides of paying higher prices.
We get them a chance to employment. The companies I work for get a chance
it's not working.
Okay, pause. You've been voted out.
The red flag thing is dumb. Good sir, with all due respect, trying to debate Luke Beasley, I respect that you're a businessman with a lot of experience in the area. But again, the issue of debates is whether you're quick-witted or not. You can be dumb as a box of rocks. Like,
are you saying I'm quick-witted? I'm quick-witted? Sorry, that was so dumb. Tim thinks I'm quick-witted.
Luke Beasley and just say things and you'll sound smarter.
Friend, Luke, nice to meet you.
Box of rocks. But again, the issue of debates is whether you're quick-witted or not. You can be dumb as a box of rocks like Luke Beasley and just say things and you'll sound smarter.
What's so funny is you've just watched. You've watched so much of this 30-minute video. You've watched my reactions. I think we've substantiated not just with vibes and feels or insults, but with actual numbers or explanations why his attacks were wrong. And at the end of it, he still feels comfortable calling me dumb as a box of rocks. Wow.
Friend, Luke, nice to meet you.
Meganomics.
Hi.
Hi, Luke. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Nice to meet
What's your
you.
name?
My name is Rosalind.
Rosalind.
Yes.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
So we're going to do this with everyone. We agree
Okay.
Trump lies when he says foreign countries pay the tariffs.
You know what's interesting about that is that if they weren't paying something, why were they so hard working trying to get out of it?
China, Japan, Mr. Japan.
See, there's an edit there. And you saw Luke get exasperated. Again, criticism of Jubilee. What Luke is doing is a semantic trick. We can agree that Trump is lying when he says the foreign countries pay the tariffs. No, hold on. This is a setup question that attempts to slice through the greater picture of what tariffs are. So I will say this factually, yes. Americans that are importing a product will pay a tariff when that product is imported. Trump is
Wait, did he just say, I'm kind of zoning out now because I'm getting tired, but did he just say factually, yes, that is correct? But is that what he said?
Greater picture of what tariffs are. So I will say this factually, yes. Americans that are importing a product.
How is it a semantic trick then? Factually, yeah, I guess Trump is lying. But I'm doing the semantic trick. Wouldn't Trump, if we don't want to call it a lie, wouldn't he be the one doing a semantic trick by saying China is paying us when they're not?
Will pay a tariff when that product is imported.
Tucker. I think that was an accidental Tucker drop.
Trump is playing this game where he's trying to argue like this fringe understanding of those companies are going to have to drop their prices to compete in the United States, and it's going to cost them a lot of money. If they want to charge more for their product, so be it. However, it is factually true that when that money is being exchanged, an American has to pay an extra fee on top to bring it in from China or India or otherwise.
Thank you.
However, the bigger picture, and Trump, he doesn't do a good job on this. He should be saying, this is for the American worker. It will cost you more money when you buy a product from China. And the reason is the people in China are peasant labor. You know what the sad reality is, though, Luke? Your voters would rather hire the slave labor. That's why the minimum wage argument is all bunk BS. Now, my friends, I'm going to stress, there's another hour and 31 minutes.
All right, my voters, what did he say? Well, they would want the slave labor? No. If you want to target tariffs to punish industries that use slave labor, do it, baby! That's not what he's doing, as I explained, and as you just agreed with. Well, I do disagree when he puts it on random things like, told ya. Ew, that was annoying. I didn't like that. That was arrogant. Okay, I'll say that was gross. All right, this ending's fun. He just rants about Jubilee. Don't copyright this video. All he means is don't let me not make Google AdSense revenue from whenever you click on the video and an ad plays, the creator gets the money, and whenever someone claims you don't get that money on one video, not like your whole channel, a video. Do you know what we do? Like constantly whenever we see that a segment we put a lot of work into gets copyrighted and thus we won't make any money off that video? I still want the audience to see it. Still worth the work. What was that for? Just so you could see it. I know every time we cover Jubilee, unless it's my episode, which even so my episodes I think have gotten claimed, but we played just a preview, I think it was, of a Piers Morgan episode, which was like, it was their ad for the episode. So we were playing an ad. I love the Jubilee people, by the way. But usually they're not claiming, they just put an automatic thing in there maybe in YouTube so that it demonetizes people whenever they do that. And I still prep and show you Jubilee segments along with other stations or content providers that will do the same thing. We still do it as long as they don't block. Like sometimes big NBC late night shows will just block your video. Then what's the point of doing a video if no one sees it except for me? That would be weird. But we constantly choose to do videos where we know we're not going to make any money because that's not what it's about. But I guess it is for Tim, which I thought, you remember you because me. And let me just say one more time. Tenet Media was an organization in the United States that was getting Russian money funneled to it so that it could funnel that money to people like Tim Pool, according to the indictment. And the money was being funneled to Tim Pool from Russia to Tenet Media, probably with more in between, to Tim Pool and others. Why? Was it because he was screaming on his show, Ukraine is our enemy? Maybe. So and it was to the tune of hundreds of thousands of dollars per month on top of all the money the business already makes for him. And you have the gall, as you're plugging your coffee company, as you're sitting on your pile of Russian money that's running out, which is why you're ending your show, as you're plugging your skateboard company, as you're ranting because you can't monetize one video like a normal person who cares more about their audience than the money, and you have the stones to call me a grifter who just cares about money. I went to Ukraine, to the place you called our enemy. This sounds self-congratulatory. I'm just telling you the truth. To the front lines to actually see it for myself. Severe threats to my physical safety. Bombs dropping all around, etc. With the amazing Kaylin. And you know what I got paid for it? Zippo. I didn't go to the Ukrainian government and say, hey, Putin's giving Tim money, give me money. Nope. I missed like 6 days of our show, which is that's like almost a fourth of the month's show revenue down the drain, which is how I fund our entire business. So that I could go there and actually see what you lied about so much. Because I cared about it. And I wanted the audience to see it. And some of those videos probably at least were at risk of not getting monetization because of the severe content in it. I don't know if maybe they were monetized, which would, cool. But all of it, I mean, that could be, as I was trying to think through, that could be the only place, even though it did not come close to making up for the money of just not doing the show. And do you know why? Because I actually care about these things, Tim. And for you to turn around with me specifically, some people I'm sure do prioritize that too much. And to level that criticism, that's crazy. That is crazy. I'd like you, here's my challenge. I challenge Tucker to this. I'd like you, since you've screamed so much about how we shouldn't support Ukraine, I'd like you to go there and not get paid for it. Go, Tim. That's my request. Not come on my show like you kept repeating. Go do something worthwhile. Go do something that's not about your show making money and actually about telling an important story.
Of this Jubilee video. And this video in no way serves as any kind of functional replacement for what that video is, offers up severe and serious critiques to Jubilee, as well as Luke Beasley's fake arguments, a direct commentary on everything he presented using a minimal portion of the material in question. Yet every time I call them out, they file fake copyright claims against this content. Now, I opened this video with that explicitly because I know what they're going to do. They're going to do another fake copyright takedown. And at some point, I think we're going to have to I'm going to call my lawyer and say they're abusing the copyright system because Jubilee knows full well this is fair use commentary.
Jubilee you can copyright this video and take the revenue. Tim, you can copyright this video and take the revenue. Just want to say that.
Scumbaggery. But I'm going to wrap it up there, my friends. Subscribe if you haven't already. Smash the like button, share the show. Stay tuned, more to come. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see you all in the next.
It's funny how, like, through it all, some people ask me, Luke, find an area where you agree with Tim. Find an area where you agree with Benny. We have to unite. And I say, oh, that's tough. But through it all of our different lives, our different backgrounds, our different views, at one point or another, as we're attacking each other, hating each other, we all have to get down and say, please hit the like button. It's something so funny about seeing these other influencers who are like, this guy's terrible. And all of us have to go, and also, could you subscribe and the like button? And like, no matter how big these channels get, they're still always going, and make sure to click the like button and subscribe. Oh, goodness gracious. So that's the video. That's the video. And I'm just really happy. Because here's the truth. I don't think people like Tim are stupid. I really don't. Dishonest, often, probably genuinely believes a lot of the stuff he's saying, but then I don't really know how he gets his way into making such incorrect points, but he's not dumb. That's my point. And so it's one thing for me to have rando commenters or random tiny channels of just some drunk guy saying, I don't like Luke Beasley. But it's another to have someone who's built a whole career about talking about politics and debating people spend 30 minutes trying to prove to his audience that what I'm saying is not correct. And then for me to walk away from it feeling like, I think I was correct there. Like that's a good feeling, because it could have been the other way. And despite what he said, if I find that I'm wrong about something, I'll tell you I'm wrong. I've done it so many times. I just can't think of the latest example.
Only 30% wrong, though.
I've been 30% wrong, like, times. That's so good. And I turned out to be 30% wrong. Oh, really? Is that what you said whenever I was there? Is that what you said when that video was being circulated without the full context, where they would cut it before I responded and disproved you? No, I don't think so. Interesting. All right, I'm just kind of stalling because I don't want to leave this segment. It's been such a ride. I hope you enjoyed it. Click the like button. Thanks for sticking around. See you in the next video.